Congresswoman, how are you?
Great to be with you, Mark.
It's a pleasure. I have never seen a miscarriage of not just justice, of our entire legislative process like this. We have an entire committee appointed by Nancy Pelosi, no opposition whatsoever, no witnesses called by Republicans, a staff picked strictly by the Democrats, including some 11 former federal prosecutors. So in other words, no other side. I don't know of any instance where Congress has done this any time in its history. We don't do it in our courtrooms. They're throwing away thousands of years of progress when it comes to testing of evidence, testing arguments, testing testimony. And then we're told we ought to watch this to find out what happened on January 6th. What do you make of this?
It is absolutely shameless, and you are exactly right, Mark. This is shredding precedent of 232 years of the House. This is the first time in the history of Congress that the minority party, in this case the Republicans, were not able to appoint members of a select committee. We appointed those members, but Pelosi wouldn't seat two of them and stripped our ability to have that voice there. And why is that important? It's important because even when we look back to the impeachment witch hunt, which I was on the Intelligence Committee for, there were Republican members in the basement bunker with Adam Schiff to be able to cross-examine the witnesses, to look at the evidence, to call out the Democrats when they were breaking the rules, when they were taking information out of context. That's not what this committee is. This committee is only hand-picked Nancy Pelosi parrots and puppets. And what's really shameless about it, Mark, is it's a primetime hearing. You and I both know that a typical congressional hearing happens during work hours, usually at 10 a.m., and goes throughout the day because that's when Congress does their work. Not only is it at 8 p.m., they hired an executive producer from ABC News, former president of ABC News, who, by the way, covered up for Jeff Epstein and refused to allow his victims to speak out on that network. They hired this individual with taxpayer funds to produce a primetime, what they believe will be a blockbuster. But my belief is that the American people are smart. They see right through this. They care about the baby formula shortage, inflation, sky-high gas prices, the crime crisis in America. And Democrats are so desperate to change the narrative that they fail on all those issues, so they want to use this political witch hunt to distract from that.
Now, Lee Stefanik, why would you need 1,000 witnesses and 140,000 documents unless you don't have a smoking gun and you got to concoct one? You got to put 100,000 puzzle pieces together by cherry-picking text, cherry-picking emails. The opposition isn't there to raise objections or have other witnesses or challenge anything. This kind of overarching or overreaching, doesn't this demonstrate what they're actually up to?
Absolutely. I mean, they are desperate. And you talk about cherry picking. They've already doctored some of the evidence that they have put out from the committee. I point to the doctored text from Jim Jordan. We called them out on that. They tried to, again, cherry pick, not provide the full context, to smear a member of Congress who, by the way, is very popular across America and is known for being one of the best investigators we have in the United States Congress. So we know they're cherry picking. They also wanted to cherry pick the members. And that's why they booted off two of the Republican appointees and only allowed Nancy Pelosi's appointed members on the committee. And I believe the reason why they truly don't want Republicans, appointed by Republican members is because much of the evidence at the end of the day, I believe, would point to the Speaker's office. The Democratic head of this committee said the only office that's off limits to this investigation is Speaker Pelosi's office. Why is this important? It's important because the Speaker's office oversees the security of the Capitol. And I believe that they don't want to answer questions, and we know they don't want to turn over documents related to the intelligence, to the warnings, and the fact that the U.S. Capitol Police was ill-prepared that day. We have since found out the U.S. Capitol Police were at half staff. We now know that they were not provided with proper equipment, and many of them had outdated equipment. We also know that there were intelligence warnings that were ignored by the Speaker of the House. Mitch McConnell's office actually produced the documents during the bipartisan investigation in the Senate. It's only Speaker Pelosi's office that has failed to make those documents available.
Well, hopefully, if and when the Republicans take the House, they'll have a real review of security at the Capitol building, and Speaker Pelosi's office will be priority number one. Because if Congress is serious about protecting itself, then it really does need to find out what went wrong, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. And you make a really important point. Not only is it important to make sure that we improve the security posture of the United States Capitol, which is essentially the people's house. Republicans have already been doing that. After we were kicked off the committee, the appointees by Kevin McCarthy, we made sure that the Republican members have been conducting their own investigation. And we intend to publish a report in the coming weeks to make sure that not only is the truth out there from our perspective, obviously we are not in the majority, so we don't have subpoena power at this time, but some of the whistleblowers that have come forward from the Capitol Police, et cetera, all that needs to be out there for the American people to hear. And most importantly, why Nancy Pelosi won't answer these basic questions related to the security of the Capitol. What's more is there have already been bipartisan investigations and recommendations as to improvements that should be made regarding the security, and Democrat leadership, Speaker Pelosi, has not acted on many of those recommendations. So this is not about improving the security posture. This is just about targeting and going after their political opponents. It is a partisan witch hunt. They want to continue to smear Donald Trump, smear his voters, and smear Republican members of Congress.
And of course, they've thrown such a big net out there. They're pulling in private citizens. People find later, after the fact, that their phone records and their emails have been accumulating in these offices. These so-called prosecutors who are there. Congress does not have the power to conduct criminal investigations. And my view is they've been trying to do this on the sly to give the information to a very partisan Department of Justice and U.S. attorney, violating the Bill of Rights, going through the back door, and that this in and of itself, again, is trampling all over our Constitution. No?
Yes, I agree with you. And look at the politicization of the Department of Justice. Look at what Peter Navarro has just gone through in terms of the Department of Justice going after, in unprecedented ways, political opponents of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, actually, the President of the United States, is on record saying he wants the Department of Justice to pursue these. That's really using it as a political arm, and it's unprecedented. You know, that's interesting because the Democrats always accused the Republicans, and it was not the Republicans. We had a law and order-focused Department of Justice. It's the Democrats that have used and really shredded the precedent and are shredding the Constitution in using their, government power, unified government right now, to go after private citizens in unprecedented ways.
Elise Stefanik, you're terrific. Thank you very much. Keep up the great work.